March 19th, 2026. Saudi Arabia just denied overflight clearance to 6 American B-1B Lancer bombers traveling from Diego Garcia to strike Iranian missile facilities. Not delayed clearance, not conditional clearance, denied. The bombers had to reroute 200 miles south around the Arabian Peninsula, adding 4 hours to their mission timeline. By the time they reached their targets, Iranian forces had relocated the mobile missile launchers the strike was designed to destroy. The mission failed before the bombs were released, and here's what that actually means. The Gulf Alliance that has defined American power projection in the Middle East for 80 years just broke. Not strained, not tested, broken. The denial itself came through encrypted channels at 0342 Zulu time. American Central Command received a single-line message from Saudi Air Defense Operations. Request denied. No justification provided, no alternative proposal offered. The bombers were already 3 hours into their flight when the message arrived. Mission planners had exactly 90 seconds to decide whether to abort entirely or attempt the southern route. They chose the reroute. That choice meant the mission was already compromised before it crossed into hostile airspace. Let me explain what overflight clearance is and why this matters. When American military aircraft need to transit from one theater to another, they don't just fly wherever they want. They request clearance from every country whose airspace they'll cross. Those requests go through diplomatic channels 24 to 48 hours before the planned flight. The host country reviews the request, checks it against their bilateral agreements, and either approves or denies. Saudi Arabia has approved every American military overflight request since 1991. Every single one. Over 30,000 missions across 3 decades. Combat aircraft heading to Afghanistan. Tankers supporting operations in Iraq. Reconnaissance planes monitoring Iran. Bombers striking ISIS targets in Syria. All of them flew through Saudi airspace because Saudi Arabia always said yes, until March 19th. 6 B-1B Lancer bombers carrying AGM-158 JASSM cruise missiles were tasked with striking Iranian mobile ballistic missile launchers in western Iran. The strike was retaliatory and time-sensitive. The launchers needed to be hit before they relocated. The mission required transit from Diego Garcia through Saudi airspace into Iraq, then missile launch at targets 200 miles inside Iran. Total flight time, 9 hours. Saudi Arabia was informed 36 hours in advance. The Saudi royal court said no. Not, we need more time to review. Not, we need additional assurances about the target set. No, the request is denied. American aircraft will not transit Saudi airspace for strikes against Iran. The bombers were already in flight when the denial came through. They had to abort the planned route and divert south. The new route took them around the entire Arabian Peninsula, down past Yemen, across the Gulf of Aden, north through the Arabian Sea, and then west into Iraqi airspace. More than 200 additional miles. 4 additional hours. 4 hours, during which Iranian intelligence tracked the bombers on radar, calculated their likely target set, and ordered the mobile launchers to relocate. By the time the JASSMs reached the target coordinates, the launchers were gone. The missiles hit empty positions. The mission accomplished nothing except proving that without Saudi cooperation, American strike capacity in the region just became exponentially more difficult. Let's talk about what this denial actually costs operationally. The direct route through Saudi airspace is 2,800 miles, approximately 5 hours flight time. The reroute added 5,200 miles in 4 hours. During those 4 hours, Iranian air defense networks prepared, mobile radars repositioned, S-300 batteries went to full alert, fighter aircraft scrambled. Every additional hour degrades the element of surprise. Fuel consumption increased by 40%, requiring 2 KC-135 tankers pulled from other missions. Target intelligence became stale. The satellite data was 6 hours old by weapons release. Mobile launchers relocate in 30 minutes. The Iranians had 6 hours. The operational effect of the Saudi denial was not that the mission failed to hit its targets. The effect was that the mission became so delayed and so telegraphed that the targets had time to disappear before the strike even happened. Now let me tell you why Saudi Arabia said no. Because this was not an impulsive decision. This was a calculated shift in strategic alignment that the Saudi leadership has been planning for weeks. And the reason is simple. Saudi Arabia concluded that America cannot protect Saudi oil infrastructure from Iranian missile attacks. That conclusion is based on hard math. Iran demonstrated the capability to launch over 300 missiles and drones simultaneously at targets across 6 countries. Saudi Arabia's oil infrastructure, the thing the entire Saudi economy depends on, consists of approximately 100 high-value targets spread across 500,000 square kilometers. Oil fields, refineries, pump stations, export terminals, storage facilities, pipelines. Each one is a soft target. Each one can be destroyed by a single missile hit. Saudi Arabia operates Patriot missile defense batteries purchased from the United States. Total number of batteries, 13. Each battery covers a radius of approximately 20 kilometers. To provide comprehensive coverage over all Saudi oil infrastructure would require over 200 batteries. Saudi Arabia has 13, The math does not work. The Saudis know it because they have already seen what happens when Iranian missiles target their oil facilities. September 2019. Iranian cruise missiles and drones struck the Abqaiq oil processing facility and Khurais oil field. 18 projectiles hit 17 targets. The attacks took 5.7 million barrels per day offline, half of Saudi Arabia's total output, gone in one morning. Repairs took 6 months. Saudi Arabia had Patriot batteries defending those facilities. The Patriots did not intercept a single projectile. That was 2019. Iranian missile technology in 2026 is substantially more advanced. The Pave cruise missile, range 1,650 kilometers, speed Mach 0.8, terrain following flight profile that keeps it below radar coverage until the final approach. The Shahed 136 loitering munition, cost per unit $20,000, can be launched in swarms of 50 or more, overwhelms defensive systems through sheer numbers. The K-Bar Shakan ballistic missile, range 1,450 kilometers, maneuverable reentry vehicle, cannot be reliably intercepted by Patriot systems. Iran has demonstrated all of these systems in combat in the last 2 weeks. Saudi Arabia watched those demonstrations and did the math. Here is that math exactly. A Patriot PAC-3 interceptor costs $4 million per missile. Each launcher holds 16 missiles. To defend against a saturation attack of 300 Iranian projectiles, Saudi Arabia would need to fire at least 400 interceptors, assuming a 75% success rate. That is $1.6 billion in interceptors for a single engagement. Saudi Arabia's entire annual defense budget is $55 billion. Iran can manufacture Shahed 136 drones for $20,000 each. The cost exchange ratio is 200 to 1 in Iran's favor. The defender goes bankrupt before the attacker runs out of weapons. If Iran decides to systematically destroy Saudi oil infrastructure, there is no defense that prevents it. American promises of protection mean nothing when the defensive systems cannot stop the threat. The Saudi leadership asked their military advisors a direct question. Can we survive a sustained Iranian missile campaign against our oil facilities? The answer was no, not maybe. Not with additional American support. No, the infrastructure is too dispersed. The targets are too vulnerable. The defensive systems are insufficient. If Iran launches 500 missiles at 500 different targets across Saudi oil infrastructure, maybe 50 get intercepted. The other 450 hit. And 450 successful strikes against critical oil infrastructure means the Saudi economy collapses within weeks. So Saudi Arabia made a choice. Stop enabling American strikes against Iran, signal to Tehran that Saudi Arabia will not be a platform for American military operations, and hope that this gesture buys enough goodwill to keep Iranian missiles away from Saudi oil fields. This is not about Saudi Arabia suddenly loving Iran. This is about Saudi Arabia choosing survival over alliance loyalty. And the Saudis are not alone. The UAE made the same calculation. Kuwait made the same calculation. Qatar made the same calculation. Every Gulf monarchy is watching the same threat assessment and reaching the same conclusion. American defense guarantees are worthless when American defensive systems cannot stop the weapons Iran is actually using. The overflight denial on March 19th was not an isolated incident. It was the public manifestation of a strategic realignment that has been happening behind closed doors for weeks. And it gets worse. On March 21st, 48 hours after the overflight denial, Saudi Arabia's foreign minister flew to Tehran, not for routine diplomatic consultations, for direct talks with the Iranian Supreme Leader's office. The meeting was not announced in advance. It was confirmed only after the minister had already left Iran, and according to diplomatic sources, the meeting covered one topic, a non-aggression framework. Saudi Arabia proposed a formal agreement. Iran commits to not targeting Saudi oil infrastructure. In exchange, Saudi Arabia commits to not hosting American military forces conducting offensive operations against Iran. The Iranians did not reject the proposal. They requested clarification on terms. Those clarifications are being negotiated right now. Let me be clear about what this means. If Saudi Arabia and Iran formalize a non-aggression pact, American military access to the Gulf collapses overnight. Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia hosts American fighter squadrons, tanker aircraft, surveillance platforms. Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar, the largest American military facility in the Middle East, 10,000 American personnel, combined air operations center that coordinates all air missions across the region. Al Dhafra Air Base in the UAE, home to American F-35s, tankers, and reconnaissance aircraft. Every one of these bases exists because Gulf states allowed them to be built on their territory. If those states decide American presence creates more risk than it mitigates, the bases close, not gradually, immediately, because once you tell the Americans to leave during a war, you cannot walk that back. The alliance is over. American military strategy in the Middle East for 80 years has been built on one assumption, that Gulf monarchies need American protection more than they fear American enemies. That assumption just died. Gulf states concluded that American protection does not work against the threats they actually face, and enemies that can destroy their economies in a weekend are more dangerous than allies who might be upset about base closures. The geopolitical order that kept American forces in the Gulf, American aircraft over the region, and American influence dominant, just inverted. Not because America lost a battle, because America's partners decided the cost of partnership exceeds the benefit. And here's the part that should terrify American strategic planners. This is replicable. Every country that hosts American forces in exchange for security guarantees is watching what just happened in Saudi Arabia. They are asking the same question. Can America actually protect us from the threats we face? South Korea hosts 28,000 American troops as a deterrent against North Korea. But North Korea now has hypersonic missiles that can hit Seoul in 4 minutes. Can American defenses stop those? Japan hosts American forces to counter China. But China operates the same S-400 systems that just made Israeli F-35s visible. Can American stealth still provide the advantage Japan is paying for? Poland hosts American troops as a deterrent against Russia. But if Russia can supply Iran with systems that neutralize American technology, what stops Russia from doing the same on NATO's eastern border? The overflight denial is not about Saudi Arabia. It is about the erosion of the foundational logic that justified American alliance structures globally. You host our forces. We guarantee your security. That deal only works when the guarantee is credible. When the guarantee fails in one theater, every partner in every theater starts recalculating, and the recalculation leads to the same place. Accommodation with regional powers that can actually hurt you is safer than alliance with a distant power that cannot actually protect you. The bombers that got rerouted on March 19th eventually returned to Diego Garcia. The mission was scrubbed. The targets were gone. And the after-action report that nobody will ever see publicly documented something that should be obvious but somehow is not. Without Gulf cooperation, American strike capacity against Iran is degraded by approximately 60%. You can still launch missions, you can still hit targets, but the operational tempo slows, the reaction time increases, the element of surprise disappears. And in a conflict where Iranian mobile missile launchers relocate every 4 hours, delay equals failure. Share this. Because mainstream media is reporting the overflight denial as a diplomatic disagreement. They are not showing you the strategic realignment it represents. They are telling you this is about Saudi concerns over escalation. They are not telling you this is about Saudi Arabia choosing Iranian non-aggression over American alliance because American defenses failed when it mattered. Both are true. Only one explains what happens next. The Gulf alliance is not strained. It is breaking. And the foundation of American power projection in the Middle East is collapsing in real time.